Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand press conference reaction. Erik Ten Hag speaks to the media after Raphael Varane announces he will leave Manchester United at the end of the season, and we do have an injury boost. Lisandro Martinez will be back in the squad for the Newcastle game. A massive boost for Manchester United. Lisandro Martinez, Raphael Varane back for the final, because we have some news on Raphael Varane as well. Aiming to be back for Brighton, but if not, of course, he will be back for the final, says Erik Ten Hag. Erik Ten Hag also shuts down the rumours that Bruno Fernandes could be leaving Manchester United in the summer, which I'm like, you know, thank God, because I don't want Bruno Fernandes to leave. He shuts down them rumours, and he also backs Rasmus Hojlund. He says he's bought him for the now, but also for the future, and he's sure that he will reach his potential. Also, a little bit of talk on the fans as well. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the press conference reaction with Erik Ten Hag. Speaking before the last home game of the season against Newcastle, we have to win this game. There's going to be a buzz around Old Trafford, even though the mood has been low, and it has been one of the worst seasons that we've ever had. Like, generally, it's been like the worst season that I can remember, honestly. There is going to be a buzz for the last day of the season, especially the last home game. We know now Varane's leaving. Who knows whether Erik Ten Hag will grace Old Trafford again as Manchester United manager. It's looking more likely that he will. But it is the last home game. We're going to have to win it. We're getting some injury boost back. And like we all thought, players slowly but surely getting themselves fit coming into the last couple of games before the FA Cup final, because you can't just announce yourself fit on the FA Cup final because you've got no minutes in your legs, so you can't just come back into the team. Newcastle, ease yourself in. Brighton, you aim to play a full game, and then voila, you're back fit for the final. Obviously, some players genuinely are injured, and this is just kind of them trying to get themselves back and not wanting to risk it before the final. I think Varane falls into that category. He probably could push to be back a little bit sooner, but we know he's made of glass, so he wants to be fit for the final. I get it. Lisandro Martinez was already knocking on Erik Ten Hag's door, asking to come back in the Arsenal game, but Erik Ten Hag said hold fire. He wants him fit for the final. But there is some other players hopefully filtering back in as well, as Erik Ten Hag speaks about the injuries. So, first up, he says Lisandro Martinez will return to the Manchester United squad tomorrow to face Newcastle. He said he's done some sessions with us and we plan for him to be available if this afternoon everything goes right in training. He will return to the squad. So looks like Martinez will be back in the squad for Newcastle. I very highly doubt he starts that game. But I reckon the right way to go about Lisandro Martinez is, I mean, I said I'd be tempted not to play him until next season now, because I just want him to not even risk getting injured, and I want him to be back fully fresh for next season. But now we know how important, the FA Cup is. Now we know Raphael Varane is hopefully going to be back for that game as well, and we know that Martinez was knocking on Erik Ten Hag's door, begging to play for the Arsenal game. Of course, he's going to come back, and let's hope he comes back with flying colours and he remains safe and intact before the FA Cup final, and even after that, and we can kind of enjoy Lisandro Martinez from the start of next season and hopefully put them injury troubles behind us. But yeah, Lisandro Martinez, I think the right way to go about it is it probably comes on around the 60th, 70th minute in the Newcastle game, and then potentially starts the Brighton game, but if not, maybe comes on at around half-time and ready to start the FA Cup final for Manchester United against Manchester City. A massive game, and probably his last game playing alongside, well, it will be his last game playing alongside Raphael Varane, and what an extra boost that gives us going into the FA Cup final. He then says on some other players, he says we will have to see Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes and Willy Camboire if they are fit enough. There was a report earlier on coming out this morning from Samuel Luckhurst, actually, that Marcus Rashford is aiming to be back this week. Didn't know if it was going to be for the Newcastle game, but hopefully definitely for the Brighton game after suffering 2 different injuries. So Marcus Rashford and Bruno and Willy Camboire could be back for the Newcastle game. Even though Willy Camboire literally came off the bench in the Arsenal game, so is he had a setback? I don't even know what Ten Hag's referring to there, but they should be part of the squad, if not for the Newcastle game, for the Brighton game, but hopefully get them back as soon as possible. I think Bruno Fernandes will make the Newcastle game last home game of the season. He wouldn't want to miss it, and we know how much he is. He never wants to miss games. He's desperate to play. And when people talk about players not being actually injured, I think all the players that are injured, I think they are injured. I just think some of them could be pushing themselves harder to be back and they probably don't fancy it. We can rule Bruno Fernandes out of that conversation because we just know by his character he would never do that. He hates being injured and he hates missing games no matter what. He's the captain for a reason. So hopefully they can be back because Willy Campbell is important as well. You know, look at our centre-back situation at the minute. You've got Casemiro and Evans. Like, we need to be upgrading that, especially coming into the last games of the season and looking towards the FA Cup final. So Willy Campbell is important, and Rashford and Bruno too. Really important for me to get Bruno Fernandes back. We miss him. I mean, the 2 games he's been missing, we haven't created jot. Created absolutely nothing, and I don't think we've scored a goal. So, Ricky, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Honestly, the amount of voice notes Ricky's been sending me saying we play better without Bruno, and I thought, what? We have no creation whatsoever in that midfield. Love Ricky, but yeah, can't wait for Bruno to be back. Got a couple super chats in. Sambits Satapathy says, do you believe everything CR7 said is becoming true? I think a lot of what Cristiano Ronaldo said is true. When he spoke about how run down the club was, when he spoke about attitudes off the pitch, when he spoke about standards, for sure. Chris Bell, a member for 17 months. I'd absolutely love to have Shaw, Leach and Varane back for the final. I think Rashford will be pleased if Shaw is back. For sure, no pun intended. Rashford obviously prefers playing with Luke Shaw because he gives him them overlapping runs that takes the defenders away. It helps out his game, but Luke Shaw, the last time I heard, had a setback in his recovery, so I don't think Luke Shaw will be back. I don't even know if he'll be available for the Euros at this rate, so we'll have to see what happens with Luke Shaw, but I don't know if he's going to be back for the final. But Lisandro Martinez and Raphael Varane, it looks like they will be, because Ten Hag also said on Raphael Varane, in terms of his injury, he got asked if he has played his last game for Manchester United, Raphael Varane, by the journalist, and Ten Hag says, we are planning definitely for the last games for Varane to play. Not tomorrow, so he's out of the Newcastle game, but he will be there to say goodbye to the fans. But we hope for Sunday, and then, of course, the last game in the final. So we will see Raphael Varane put on a Manchester United shirt before he leaves, which is amazing news because we need him, not only on the pitch, not only just for sentimental reasons, but we actually need him because he's our best centre-back, and it'll be great to have him back for that all-important game in the final. And then Erik Ten Hag is asked about Rasmus Hojlund's form. I don't want to speak about that article yesterday about Rasmus Hojlund that came out from the MEM because my feelings on that, I just ignore stuff like that now because I just don't even want to waste my breath on it, to be honest with you, because I just don't believe it in the slightest, and I just think it's just putting that out at this point in the season. Well, putting that out in general, but putting that out at this point in the season when confidence is low and we massively need players to perform, it just causes division for no reason. We need positivity right now. We need the team to come together, and we want Rasmus to be doing well, and we need him to be scoring goals. But Erik Ten Hag says on Rasmus Hojlund about his form at the moment, he said, when we decided to go for him and we buy a player for this season in Rasmus Hojlund, but we also buy him for the future. He has to develop, he has to progress, he needs time. It sometimes goes up and down. Before winter, he struggled to get his first Premier League goal, but he's a very strong character. I am confident that he is close. So Erik Ten Hag backing Rasmus Hojlund there, saying, look, we didn't just buy him for now, we bought him for the future. We all know from Erik Ten Hag's interview with Gary Neville that he wanted Harry Kane. He wanted an experienced striker, and Rasmus was supposed to be the young player that we would nurture into the team. I said on yesterday's show, I even think Rasmus didn't think he'd play this many minutes for Manchester United. He's in a massively disjointed team, but he has a lot of potential, he has a lot of attributes, and which is why Manchester United bought him. So I think we just need to be patient with Rasmus, and when the team is playing better, I think you'll see a better Rasmus Hojlund, and that's exactly basically what Erik Ten Hag says. We need to be patient. He's only young. He's taking on the centre forward role for Manchester United in a massively challenging season. Be patient with him, and you know what? If his goal comes in the FA Cup final, I'll have no qualms about that. So just got to keep backing him for then. But yeah, he admits he has to develop, which is what I've said. Of course there's developments there. He's played half a season in the Serie A in his breakout season, and now he's having to do the graveyard shift for Manchester United. There is developments there. I've said it until I'm blue in the face. We need to bring an experienced striker to help him. But also, I feel like the team is letting him down a lot. And when he's getting his opportunities, as the stats say, he is scoring them. He needs to create a few more opportunities for himself, I feel like, with his movement and maybe get involved a little bit more. But there's so much to Rasmus Hojlund that I think the future is bright with him, and Erik Ten Hag absolutely backs that up as well and backs his player after a completely... I mean, it was a horrible article, I thought, in the MEN yesterday regarding Rasmus that I just don't think it adds anything at this point in the season to be saying things like this now when we need to come together and support all of our players for the last few games of the season, considering we want that FA Cup. And when there's a will, there's a way. There's always a chance. People keep saying, you know, that you've got no chance against City anyway. Over a 90-minute game of football, it's anyone's game. No matter how good Man City are, no matter how poor we've been, there's always a chance. Yes, Man City are most likely to win the cup, but there's always a chance. So we need to be behind them. Next up, as well, on the press conference, Erik Ten Hag speaks about Hojlund again, and he said, "Last season we had a goal scorer with 30. We add one extra striker to the squad. On financial resources, more and more was not possible." Sometimes when these quotes are written up, because I don't get to actually watch it in real time, I have to kind of make sense of what's being said, because Erik Ten Hag, you know, obviously he speaks good English now, but sometimes it gets a little bit convoluted. So let me just read that again. Last season we had a goal scorer with 30. He's talking about Marcus Rashford. And we had one extra striker to the squad because obviously the financial resources weren't at the highest, and to add another one wasn't possible. We were quite confident when you add a third and reach 2 finals. When you add a striker, the transfer policy is right. Honestly, I can't even understand what that's saying, to be honest with you. Basically, what he's saying is, we're confident in the amount of goals that we're going to be able to score. You had Marcus Rashford, who'd scored 30 goals last season. You had Anthony Martial as well, who is another striker there. He's saying they added a third striker, basically, in Rasmus Hojlund. They were confident that was going to be enough. But honestly, we know how inconsistent Rashford's been over the course of his Manchester United career. He did absolutely excellently last season. I don't think anyone could anticipate the drop-off would be this much, but he has dropped off, and we never should have relied on him for all of our goals outlets. That's why you buy Rasmus Hojlund. But I think most Man United fans and most football fans would have said that Manchester United needed more. It was obvious. Martial's never fit. Rasmus Hojlund's only 20. He was only 20 years old when he came into the club. It was obvious that we needed a striker with more experience. So Ten Hag's kind of trying to cover it up, thinking we would have had all bases covered. Erik Ten Hag knew that we needed someone else. That's why he wanted Harry Kane. So he's defending the club a little bit there. But realistically, last summer, we should have invested in an experienced striker as well, because Rashford isn't a striker, he's a left winger. And bringing in Rasmus was a huge risk. And he is a potential player. We needed someone with experience as well, and that was a mistake on the club's part not to do that. Got another super chat in as well from Sambit saying, "What is your personal opinion regarding Rashford?" God, I've spoke about Rashford so much, but over the last few months. But my opinion on Rashford is he's not doing enough this season. Very unhappy with his performances and the effort levels that I've seen from him, and I expect more from him. He used to be my favourite Manchester United player. Absolutely loved Marcus Rashford when I was growing up. Last season, he was incredible. This season, I understand, you know, form is temporary and players do go through peaks and troughs. But what I've been most disappointed with this season is the effort levels. That I go to Old Trafford and I watch it. A statement isn't going to change my opinion from what I watch week in, week out. So for me, Rashford has to do a lot more to secure his spot in the team going forward, and also considering he's the highest paid player at the club, and considering he's a Manchester United fan that's come through the academy, he needs to be doing more. I wish he had the work rate of a McTominay who come through the academy, because there's no doubt Marcus Rashford is talented. I believe Marcus Rashford is unbelievably talented, and when he's on form, he can rip teams to shreds. But unfortunately, I just don't think he's done enough this season at all, and I'm disappointed with the way this season's gone, not only for Manchester United but for Marcus Rashford as well. You asked me my personal opinion. That's how I feel about it. It's like there's players in this team that I've always said are super important, and when you look at the outstanding performers last season, I mean, Rashford won Player of the Year. you would have thought, you know, the main important players coming off the back of last season for United were Martinez, Shaw, Bruno, Casemiro was one of them, and Marcus Rashford. Now, Casemiro isn't an important player for us. Marcus Rashford, in my opinion, isn't an important player for us. I think Bruno is, absolutely. I still think Martinez and Shaw are, even though Shaw's been nowhere to be seen. And when players are constantly injured, that does need to be evaluated. But for me, Marcus Rashford was like one of the first names on the team sheet, and now he's injured, and I want him to get back as quick as possible so we had depth to our squad. But don't think it's the be-all and end-all, because we've had him available this season and he's not provided enough for us. Tushar Bilewal, sorry if I butchered that name, I do have a habit of doing that, I'm really sorry. He said, we need to sell everyone except Hojlund, Garnacho. Yes, even Mainu is not good enough. Tushar, come on. Come on, what are you smoking on this Wednesday? Oh, sorry, Tuesday afternoon. Mainu is not good enough. Are you mad? You need to get yourself down to Specsavers. Dan Edis says, try Rasmus at cam and Bruno at right centre-back. It can't be worse. I'm sorry, what's in the air today? What is in the air today? There are two super chats where I'm looking at it like, what on earth? Rasmus at cam is a no. And Bruno, to be fair, Bruno at centre-back, better than Casemiro. Genuinely believe that he would do a better job. He said he's played centre-back in his youth days. He played centre-back with one leg against Liverpool better than Casemiro's been doing it recently. So don't ever write that off, but yeah, I don't think that'll happen. Dylan Hardman says, Beth, what has happened to Malacia? Any news on him? No news on Malacia. I think he's just working hard to be back for next season, to be honest. We're still going to buy a left back. Sambit Satapathy says, Man U becoming a graveyard of talents. Ineos needs to fix it. 100%. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I want to get through the press conference, so I'll say it quickly. Why is it that every talent we buy flops? Anthony, he was talented and he had a good reputation at Ajax. Hasn't lived up to the expectation. Sancho hasn't lived up to the expectation. Hojlund, I think, has all the attributes. He's got a lot of potential and he's shown glimpses, but I don't want to destroy another talent. We need to nurture him and we need to help him and we need to get the best out of him. And that's something we should be focused on doing for next season. It's something that Ineos massively need to address, because, you know, people are going to look at Man United twice and think, do I want to go and ruin my career there? Like, look at Mason Mount. I know he's been injured and he's not really played much, but he was in the England team. He's won a Champions League with Chelsea, got the winning assist in the Champions League, got Player of the Year for Chelsea in a team that was doing super well under Thomas Tuchel. Mount is super talented. And again, people are like, what's his future? And talented players come into Manchester United and it's like, come and kill your careers here. We need to get out of that habit, because we have recruited poorly in a lot of cases, but we've also recruited some super talented players and we've not been able to make it work. And Man United really need to look at that, and we need to make sure that Mount doesn't go down the same path as the likes of other players have done that. We need to make sure that we get the best out of a super talented young striker in Rasmus Hojlund. We need to stop that now, and we need to be elevating these talents and not taking them down a level. Ten Hag speaks about the Newcastle game and how important it is, and he said it's a very important game. You get the ranking, as in, you know, you want to go as far up as we can in the table, even though European football looks like it's not going to be possible. You could get Conference League, which is, I mean, a lot of people in the chat would argue they rather wouldn't have Conference League. For me, if you asked if I'd have Conference League or nothing, I'd say nothing. Europa League, absolutely would love to get Europa League, but that's not going to happen. I doubt it's going to happen. I don't think we can get sixth now. I need to have a look, or it's going to be hard for us to get that. We could get it if we win the FA Cup, but obviously Newcastle are just above us in the table, so it's the clash of the mid-table teams. Let me just have a quick look at the Premier League and see what we could do here. So let me just have a look. So we are 8th currently, and if I'm not mistaken, obviously 5th is Europa League, and 6th is going to be Europa League as well, because even if we lose the FA Cup and City win it, they're obviously not going to get Europa League. They're already in the Champions League, so it'll go down to 6th. We'll get Europa League, and then 7th will be Conference. And you've got Newcastle that are currently in 6th. Oh, so we could still qualify for a 6th spot Europa League if all goes well from now until the end of the season. But that would mean beating Newcastle and also beating Brighton and hoping Chelsea drop points as well. I mean, it's going to be massively, massively tough. And Newcastle are coming to Old Trafford to win. Do not get that twisted. But the hope I have is that it's Old Trafford and it's our last home game of the season. So I'm hoping there's going to be a buzz around the place. But yeah, Erik Ten Hag very focused on getting as high up in the table as we possibly can. But you know, 8th, 7th, 6th, they're all nowhere where Manchester United should be, and it's been a poor season for us. Ten Hag then addresses the Bruno Fernandes exit rumours, and he says it's the same question as last week. So I answered the same answer. Now, in all the years he was a tremendously important player for Manchester United, creating the most chances across the Premier League. So many assists, so many goals. It is clear that he's a very important player for us. Erik Ten Hag on Bruno Fernandes. He previously said in other press conferences that Bruno Fernandes will be here next season and he's not looking to leave, and he's a very important player for Manchester United. And what I would say to that is thank God, because I think he's underappreciated by a lot of football fans. I think he's super important to this football club, and honestly, the report came out from The Sun that Bruno was looking to leave Manchester United, and I don't believe that in the slightest. Like, I looked at it and I just thought, it's such an easy article to write because he's been injured for a couple of days and you're going to get headlines off the back of it. But Bruno won't be leaving. I know Saudi Arabia have massive interest in him, but Bruno shut that down last summer when they came in for him. He's not about the money at this point in his career. And I tweeted earlier, I would do anything. Anything. Not quite anything. Don't get carried away with ideas. But there's a lot of things I would do to see Bruno Fernandes lift a major trophy with Manchester United. I think he deserves it. It's sad because he's 29 now, and United are going into another rebuild, and he wants to win major trophies. He's a talented player that has the talent and the ability to win major trophies, and he should be in a team that's doing that, and I do think we are letting him down. But I think it's so important that he stays because I think he's one of the only signings that we've actually done in the last how many years that has actually been successful and not let the club sink him. And yeah, his form's dropped off this season. It has, in a really underperforming year for Manchester United, but he's been someone that has been able to kind of withstand the curse of Manchester United, and for £47 million, which is what he cost us, he's been an excellent signing. And I'm sad we've not been more successful with him in the team in terms of trophies. You know, he's been here for a long time now, and I think he's won a Carabao Cup. Like, he needs to be winning more than that for a player of his quality. And I hope we build a better team around him for the summer, but it's not gonna happen in 1 year, and time is ticking. But I think Bruno is a player that will be able to play for a lot of years to come. He looks after himself. He's super energetic. He seems to be made of steel. Like, he's only just ever been out of a game through injury recently, and I don't think he'll miss too many. So I think Bruno will play to quite a late age, at a high level. He spoke about dropping back into the 8 role as he gets a little bit older. So I could see Bruno finishing his career at Manchester United, to be honest with you. But the one thing I would say is Ten Hag didn't outrightly say he will not leave in that quote, but he speaks about how important he is, and I could bet a lot on the fact that Bruno Fernandes will still be Manchester United captain and he'll still be here next season, and I hope that is the case because I just want to see him lift major trophies with Man United. But the time is ticking and we are so far off it at this moment in time. Would love us to win the FA Cup as well, obviously, but that's going to be a tough ask against Manchester City. Sambit Satapathy says, what kind of players do you feel is going to adapt to Manchester United right now? We need to get players in, I keep saying it, that have top mentality but also have the talent to go with it and have years ahead of them. I feel like Manchester United, we either get players that are past it or we get players that are so youthful and they need time to develop, and the potential players. We need to hit that sweet spot. You know what, for example, Lisandro Martinez was the perfect example. The perfect example of a brilliant signing for Manchester United. Okay, he's had injury issues and that's super unfortunate, and I'm really hoping they've just been an anomaly and next season he'll be backfiring and we'll move past the injury issues with Lisandro Martinez. But as a signing, Lisandro Martinez is like the perfect embodiment of what Manchester United should be doing. I think we bought him when he was 24, at the level to come into Manchester United and play at a very high level, also has the mentality to be a Manchester United player. That's what we need. he was in the point of his career where he's ready to take that step to play for Manchester United, and he seamlessly kind of fit into the team. And he's got the mentality. Everyone said, you know, future captain, Lisandro Martinez. That's where we should be aiming for. 24, 25, 26, 27. That sweet spot where players are ready to take that next step, are ready to compete at the highest level, also have the mentality to play for United. It's all well and good getting in, you know, the 19, the 20-year-olds, which I think is super important as well. I think that is important because you need to be building for the future. But it's important to get them alongside experienced players that can take the weight of the club and have what it takes to play now and can take the heat, can take the pressure. We need to have them both. We need to, you know, of course we need to have experienced players in the squad as well, but we need to stop going for players that are past it, and we need to continue buying young players, of course we do, but we also need to make sure we're buying players that are ready now. And we've talked about going for a new left back in the summer, and Romano said it, United want a young player, but they also want a player that's ready now to play. We need someone with potential, of course, but someone who can also play now, and that's what's super important, that Manchester United do that in the transfer window, because we've got so many young talents coming up through Carrington as well. At the under-18s, it's such an exciting time at Carrington to be one of them players, because you're going to get opportunity. Ten Hag has proved that, and there's so much talent there as well. So United need to focus on getting players that are ready. Todibo is another one. I think he's like 24, 25. He's currently ready to take that next step. I think that would be a good signing to do as well. Of course, there's, you know, younger players that are ready. Like there is. Like I think Branthwaite is ready to play for Manchester United, and he's 21. So you just got to kind of evaluate signings like that. And Ten Hag, lastly, gets asked on the Manchester United fans, because obviously the mood has been low at the last end of the season. It feels like every game, like the fans and the players really are just waiting for the season to end. That's how it feels. Thank God we have an FA Cup to look forward to, and that's why we need to make sure we need to finish the season on a high, purely to have momentum going into that FA Cup final. But he says on the Manchester United fans, he said what they did in the last games at Palace, they were so magnificent, and that is absolutely true. The away fans deserve a medal for the way they acted at the Palace game. Unbelievable. And he said, you say the mood is low, maybe the expectations are lower, but I don't want to say the mood. The vibe they create is lower. They back the team at Palace and last Sunday. So Ten Hag just saying the fans have been unbelievable, and they do deserve a shout out, because even against Arsenal, like we were there, the fan base was there, and you could hear the noise. Like we still were backing that team, even though it was such a lacklustre performance. And you know, the away fans against Palace, we got pumped 4-0, and it was a terrible performance. And honestly, I don't think the players deserved what the away fans give them that day. So the fans have been magnificent in a really turbulent season, and I really hope the players can give us something back at this late end of the season. FA Cup's going to be huge at Wembley, and also last home game of the season. Please make it a win. I can't remember the last time we won in the Premier League. I keep saying this, so I'll be there, last home game of the season. I'm sure a lot of you guys will be watching from worldwide, and anyone who's going to the game. There's going to be a positive atmosphere from the fan base. We are loyal, and the fan base don't let this Man United team down, despite the fact us as a fan base have been let down this season. And it was right for Ten Hag to give them recognition. And hopefully, even though this Newcastle team has got some good players and they've got a history of beating Manchester United in recent years, we're going to be able to put in a performance and end the season on a high at Old Trafford. I really hope that we can do that. And hopefully, you know, it doesn't rain, because the stadium might not be able to withstand it. Hopefully we'll have something in place to stop the embarrassing leaks coming through the stadium, which we had against Arsenal. Maybe we've had a few like little patch jobs done between now and then. It really is embarrassing, isn't it? Last few super chats. Why are we getting our knickers in a twist over Rasmus? He's a young striker with huge potential, learning his trade. He can only get better. Thank you for that last super chat. But look, everyone, that is the press conference from Erik Ten Hag. The third last press conference of the season, last home game press conference, and the last home game is tomorrow. Make sure you get all your comments in, your expectations in, and let me know what you're thinking, guys. I've just seen Ariane H in the chat says Todibo and Thuram would be amazing signings. I think Todibo is one. Thuram, I feel like we missed out last year, to be honest with you. But look, everyone, it's great to see the love for Rasmus in the chat as well. I know there's stuff that needs to be improved from the players' side, but also other players' side as well. but we've got to get behind our players because we want to win games. We've got an FA Cup final to win. So hit a like on the video, get your comments in. I've seen Jem says Jem said that she's ordered her life jacket in the canoes. You've got your canoe ready for tomorrow. Honestly, instead of driving to Old Trafford, come in a kayak. Probably be able to get around better. But look, everyone, thank you for watching the United Stand for Erik Ten Hag's press conference reaction. Mark will be back later. And what I will say is, has anyone got a Spurs shirt that I can borrow for tonight? I will be, in the words of Kai Havertz, I will be the biggest Spurs fan ever tonight. Come on, Spurs. Come on, Ange Postecoglou. Have you got something for us? Spurs, I'll be watching. I'll be glued to my screen. I hope City don't kill it within like the first 20 minutes, which could easily happen. Like, they're just on one at the moment, aren't they? Making the league boring. Give it some excitement. Give it some excitement, and I really hope Spurs can give us something tonight. But Mark will be live at 7 p.m. for the evening show on the United Stand, and obviously Spurs City. It's the big one on That's Football later. Look, everyone, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one.